Hello to my air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Welcome to the Gemini new moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Libra Rising, welcome to your reading for the Gemini new moon and the Venus Cazimi that's all happening very close by. The new moon's on Thursday the 6th of June at 10:40 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. I've also got some info for the rest of the weekend and then leading into next week as well. Now, this new moon could be really gorgeous. It could be something really powerful in the way that you think about what you're learning or sharing about your philosophy on life. This could be something that you've been working on for some time. In fact, I would actually hasten to think that it might be, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It could be the completion of a chapter of commitment to study, of learning language. It could be something really powerful if we can work with the boundary, if we can work with the lesson. So here we go. The sun, the moon, they come together in Gemini and they create a moment of potential. They create a seed. At a new moon, it'll be dark, and we, with the Ace of Pentacles, maybe plant something and hope for future growth. On your birth chart, Libra Rising, Gemini is the 9th house, which is the house of the gods in the traditional sense, which does speak so much to mind expansion and to spiritual study and practice and to learning, to publishing. So in that way, there might be something ready to submit. There might be something ready to action at this time. The other thing that we're working with here has specific relationship to your guiding planet, to Venus. So the sun and Venus will come together the day before this new moon, exactly in the same place, for a beautiful, warm, enriching rebirth. Now Venus and the sun come into contact with one another. It just so happens in the same 5 places around the zodiac. Every Cazimi, whether retrograde or forward moving, will be at this time in space in Gemini, in Leo, in Scorpio, or in Capricorn, or in Aries. So the Cazimis always occur in the same sign. When you connect those dots of those marker points, those moments of rebirth, you get a 5-pointed star. And this is a pattern that has existed before time began. This is something that every ancient culture across the planet who follows the sky, who maps the sky, recognized in some capacity and imbued the planet of Venus with their mythology, with their understanding of what that meant. The 5-pointed star is an ancient symbol of sacred hope. More often than not, Venus was related to love and to fertility. When Venus was called Inanna by the Mesopotamians, there was also truth, wisdom, and justice attached to Venus too. And this is what I really like about this effect happening on your birth chart, specifically Libra Rising, because we know that in the tarot, the Justice card is your soul's mission. The Justice card is the Libran sensibility written all over. And thinking about Venus as the guiding light for your sign, and thinking about the varying definitions of what Venus can represent to different cultures around the planet, justice is a major part of it. And so the last time that Venus and the sun came together in Gemini in a superior or a forward-moving conjunction was in June of 2016. And so we're kind of completing that star shape at this new moon, at this moment. So we're encouraged to look back to 2016 and to think to ourselves what seeds were sown then, as far as Venus was concerned, what was beginning then, And how can we find the similarity, or how can we find the closing notes on the chapter of that period of time, that quality of time, and look forward to starting something new? Now, when I think back to 2016, I can't help but be incredibly triggered by memory. 2016, specifically June 2016, bore great tragedy with it across the planet. Specifically, in one moment for the queer community, there was a horrible, inexcusable, horrific act of violence that occurred in Orlando, Florida in June of 2016, and it reverberated the pain of that moment across the planet. And safe spaces weren't so safe in our mind's eye any longer. I don't think that there's one queer individual that I've spoken to that wasn't affected in some way by that moment. And then, of course, the circus of the American elections began. And the results of those elections were given to us in November. So there's a lot of triggering memory about 2016. However, if we keep Venus in our mind's eye, if we keep that emblem of beauty, of femininity, of the woman, of truth and wisdom and justice in our mind's eye, we then remember that the Me Too movement exploded into the consciousness, that words around bodily autonomy, around consent, around justice for survivors was growing and growing and growing. In fact, so common in the parlance now that it's impossible to eradicate, although it has been attempted. This changed, 2016 changed the culture, changed the way that we refer or relate to the Venusian principles of life. There's power in that. There's power in that moment. Also, in times like this, when there is perhaps unconscious triggering feelings about what will occur for the remainder of this year leading into next, the same puppets back in action, the same emblem of privilege, of chauvinism, of greed being flung in front of our faces, I can't help but think of the repercussions that that individual has just had to face now in the court of law, which changes everything from the time before. 2016 to now feels really connected as far as the Sun and Venus coming together. There's a brightness here, and if we remember that Venus is about beauty and is about love and is about women and is about the feminine principle in each and every single one of us, we also remember that Venus is about justice and about wisdom. The world is different to than what it was in 2016 for multiple incarnations, multiple evolutions of this idea. And it will never go back to the way that it was before in that context. So I actually am looking forward to this moment. I'm looking forward to this Kazemi, and I can face the remainder of this year with a sense of bravery because my feminine spirit is also a warrior. You can't tell Venus what to do. If you want to learn more about Venus, I highly recommend you read the work of Ariel Gutman at sophiavenus.com. She's been marking the journey of Venus around the galaxy, around the stratosphere, and it's a life's work of hers. And she's got far more wisdom than I have at this moment, but I'm learning more, and I'm learning from Ariel, so I encourage you to do the same. It's powerful. This could be the seed of a grand adventure for you in communication, in articulation of your feminine spirit, of your love, wisdom, and of your strength and conviction to justice. As long as we keep in mind the boundary that you've been setting in your house of service, the part that would have you fall apart, the cosmic, connected, empathetic part in Pisces in the 6th house. Saturn has been training us since March of last year, March of 2023, to contain some of this, because we'll just go to pieces if we don't. There is a container here. There is definitely more behaviors rising that will be contended with. There is a crisis of faith in some way that we can't look to this work or this work to love and light the pain away, that we use this to give our moment its context. We use this to give an opportunity to look in the mirror as we look at the galaxy. What's going on in my world, my galaxy? We don't use it to explain anything away or to provide excuses for. So stand together, stand with me and everyone else, Libra Rising, as we face this moment. Those squares will perfect after the new moon. So there could be push and pull, there could be tension. You might feel that more people need more of you and you need to find the appropriate barriers to quieten that noise because you're convinced at this time. Venus is your guiding light. Venus is meeting up the sun and Jupiter and Mercury and the moon. What could be better? Put it out there. Stand by your convictions, Libra Rising. Go with what you know to be the truth. Speak on it, write about it, listen as you learn, listen as you speak. It's a powerful moment. It could be wonderful. Hopefully there's lots of big chats around love and connection too. Hopefully people are reaching out to each other saying, look, I just need to tell you that I really appreciate you. That could be an amazing part of this astrology as well. Mars will move into Taurus. So there's going to be something that feels emboldened around this collaborative process of yours, around your process of grief and around your process of obligation. There's going to be something hopefully that feels like a bit of a spark of bravery, hopefully feels less combustible and more of an act of bravery, an act of resilience. And then Mercury will join up with the Sun too, having their own cazimi. So it does feel like there's a lot of info, and even giving these horoscopes, I mean, like, what the F are you talking about? But I think that we're getting somewhere here with this Libra Rising. We've got to use it where we can use it. We've got to remember that we are in good company, that there is a whole collective of folks that want the best for you and want the best for humanity. They really do. They believe in love as sincerely as you do. They believe in the truth as sincerely as you do. The difference between, and there's another astrologer, Ace Sparkly Cat, that has written a brilliant explanation on Gemini and Mercury on Gemini, Jupiter and Mercury in Gemini, and the difference between Jupiter wishing to find the truth in order to be right and Mercury being like, that's correct, it's a mess. They said that Mercury is not deceitful or deceptive, is non-binary. Like you, they choose the way that leads between the great two lines of force, don't they, Libra Rising? Polarity, we see it, is shattering the globe. Libra Risings know that this is one side of the thing, this is the other side of the thing, and I'm picking this way, and I'm convinced, and I've got Venus as my guiding light, and Venus is just going through a rebirth. I'm closing a chapter on 2016. I'm remembering everything that we went through as a culture, as women, as queers, since 2016, and I hold all of that to be true in one hand, and in the other hand, I hold my belief in humanity. Let's do it. Let's do it. Three cards. Un, dos, tres. Lots of people have gotten this one. Don't be frightened. It's completely what the tarot does for us. Shocks to the system, trauma can be so terrifying when structures crumble that we've become reliant on. Even though we're miserable, there's something about repetition that the human mind gets used to. And it's difficult sometimes to shake oneself out of what we've become used to, even though we long for something that feels more in balance, that feels more in sync with the right thing to do. People get used to their cages, they get used to their confines, and it can be so traumatic for those things to fall away, for something to end, to be over. However, when we look to the past, Seven of Swords, we can see deception there. We can see curtains falling down here and there and there and there. The truth is being revealed. The truth was being used as a weapon in the past, as a way to control, wasn't it? But it's out there now. And when it's out there, it's raw and it's really difficult. And it can be so confronting to face what you now know to be the gosh darn honest truth. It can be really triggering. When met with one form of trauma, the trigger response from past traumas come up. And this is what this card speaks all about, Libra. You know this card really beautifully as well. This is a Libra spirit card, and this is something that we must remember, the element. We must remember that swords are air, are our thoughts, our mind. This tattoo of a card is so potent and so powerful, and the gentle ones among us bear it with pride. But we can take those swords out, and when we do, there's room for water to flow, there's room for emotion to flow. So at this time, Libra Rising, in the face of such shock and such worry, the past was built on something that felt very deceitful. But you aren't deceitful, and you know that it's not in our nature to be deceitful. That's something that was learned. That's something that can be measured. People's deceitfulness has proven their wealth, and that's not what you believe in any longer. So use Venus as your emblem, your guiding spirit. Put that into great... Put Venus on your altar. Write to her. Remember that she is beautiful, and she is a warrior too. That's your reading. Love to you, Libra. If you're still here with me, please put a 5-pointed star in the comments in honor of Venus and their very slow journey through our timeline. Look up Ariel Gutman, sophiavenus.com. Look up Pallas Augustine, another great writer on the subject, 9ofwands.com. I'll put the info in the box down below. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, head to umaruby.com and I'll draw you one like this, and we can speak via Zoom. If you have had a reading with me before and you'd like another one, head back to my website, pick truth, love, growth, magic, or femme, and we can go on a journey with the current astrology, those topics, and pull tarot together as well. If you've got the finances to support my work, head to buymeacoffee.com. The link is in the description. You can subscribe for 10 Australian dollars a month. You can also put some money in the tip jar. Love and power to you at this new moon in Gemini, Libra Rising. Love and power. Hello, Aquarius Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Gemini new moon happening very soon, this Thursday, the 6th of June at 10:40 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. I've also got a lot of information leading us into the next week, as always. Now, this new moon in Gemini could be a beautiful seed of potential. It could be a really supportive supportive, encouragement for you to express yourself through your body, through your art, through your sexuality, through your pleasure zone. Gemini is the sign that rules your fifth house of all of those topics: pleasure for pleasure's sake, fun, creativity, connection. Not only are the sun and the moon coming together at this moment, marking this point to find the seed to sow, but also we know Jupiter is in there. Also we know Mercury has just entered into Gemini too. Now Mercury is the planet that rules Gemini, that has the best information, the best style to work out the Gemini outfit. Venus is also in Gemini too, so that's a huge amount of emphasis on your pleasure, your fun, your sexuality, your creativity, your expressiveness. How do you see the world, Aquarius rising? Through what lens? What do you see as being the truth? What do you see as being the point of it all? Let that conversation flow. Gemini talks. It's twins. They chat to each other. So do that. Have conversations based on love, based on the pleasure principle, based on flirtation, based on cute, sweet awesomeness. All of that, keep that in your back pocket. We're also working at a pivotal time where Venus has joined up with the Sun exactly, forming what's called a cazimi. So Venus is reborn through the light, the rays of the Sun. And this happens regularly. It happens once, sometimes twice a year. However, what a lot of us don't know, what I didn't know, what I'm learning about, is that over a period of 8 years, Venus forms a star in the zodiac, the shape of a star, like you, like the star card. Venus and the Sun will always conjoin, come together in the same signs of the zodiac. So for most of our lifetime, if you're under 40 or under, for all of our lifetime, Venus has come together in Aries, in Scorpio, in Leo, in Gemini, and in Capricorn. These are the houses, these are the signs, I should say, where that cazimi occurs, always. The degree of the conjunction moves slowly over time, and so it's like a 5-pointed star that's gently shifting around the zodiac. In 8 years, it will conjoin in forward movement 5 times and in retrograde movement 2. Now, we're completing a story on that basis of working with Venus in this way. We're completing a story that began in the year 2016 for you, Aquarius rising. So there was a conjunction between Venus and the Sun in Gemini, right around a new moon as well, at 14 degrees of Gemini, beginning this star shape. And it's taken 8 years for that star to complete, to come back to base. That star is a magical emblem that so many cultures all over the world have drawn, have studied, have used as part of their spirituality, as part of their emblem. That symbol was demonized by the overarching supremacy of the Abrahamic religions. And so that's why the pentagram or the pentacle has some, sort of occultish connotations too, because of the judgment on it. But that 5-pointed star that kids draw in their storybooks, it's one of the first drawings you learn how to make, is that star shape. It's been with us since before time began. And you can pick up the stitch whenever you want to. I'm picking up the stitch at June of 2016. And so I'd like for you to think about what was occurring in your world as far as your access to pleasure, as far as your sexuality, your creativity, the parts of you that express for the sake of expressing, what was planted in 2016 and what is culminating right now. As queer people and as women and as the working class and as people of colour, 2016 bore with it some immense trauma. There was a specific act of horrendous violence that made safe spaces unsafe in 2016. There was also the beginning circus victory march of the American election campaigns and the monstrosity that that journey, that parade culminated in. Now, that doesn't sound particularly Venusian, does it? But remember, Venus represents women. Venus represents queers. Venus represents the beauty and the femininity in each and every one of us. And so, as much as that moment was horrific, and as much as the astrology was telling us there was a cross through the zodiac too, there was opposition to that conjunction, and there was opposition going the other way. A big no. What does that big no remind you of? The Me Too movement. In years to come, the Black Lives Matter movement. There was an uprising of people saying no more to this puppet, this emblem of fascism, of privileged supremacy. The language has changed since 2016 around bodily autonomy, around rights for the expression of one's true nature. And there's going to be always in life a couple of steps forward, a couple of steps back. Progress takes time, but there's no going back from the progress that we've made since 2016 in regard to the way that we, in our mind's eye, as a collective, consider the rights of the minority. That the minority is always used as a carrot or a distraction by the true powers is something that needs to be eradicated too. That's a big no, and that big no is coming from Venus. Because as much as Venus is the goddess of beauty and pleasure and femininity and love, she's also the goddess of justice and of the truth and wisdom. In the Mesopotamian culture, Venus, the planet, was called Inanna. They worshipped the planet as if it were Inanna, the goddess, who represented just that, wisdom and justice. So this is what we're working with in this new cycle of Venus around our stratosphere, this new star shape that's being created as we quite literally face trigger responses from 2016 with the election campaign moving forward. Think about this moment though, 2016, 2024. What is common as emblems, signifiers on the global stage? What repercussions have just been handed down in a court of law at this time for said puppet, said individual? It's actually powerful. And if you can imbue yourself, your nature, Aquarius Rising, with the conversational qualities of Gemini, Gemini wants to talk about it, Gemini wants to express, Gemini wants to understand. Venus wants truth, justice, and pleasure. So if you can at all, in whatever capacity that you're able to, however you wish to use this astrology, commit to a new cycle with the way that you relate to your body, your choice, your sexuality, your selfhood, then I would highly encourage you to do that. I'd encourage you to be proud of the progress you've made since 2016, the absorption of the shock that we have all gone to, and the years that followed, to unpack some of that shock and to realize the profundity of that cultural moment and its effect on all of us. The star completes itself. Right before this, in fact, I think possibly on the day that I'm putting these out, Jupiter and Pluto in your first house are forming a once-in-a-lifetime aspect. We know that you're going through your own personal revolution right now, Aquarius Rising. We know that there's something really changing about your nature, and that's beautiful. I encourage that. Jupiter does too. Jupiter in your fifth house of your creativity, your individual self-expression, the way that you share, express, love and pleasure is shooting up this once-in-a-lifetime line of support to Pluto. Feel it. Believe it. I believe you. I encourage you to be the person that you are in this life. I encourage you to open yourself up to the possibilities of what being the star as you are could offer. I'm going to get you some tarot. Thanks for being here with me, Aquarius. I really appreciate it. These ones have been difficult to... I've overloaded my mind with so much... I've got analysis paralysis, actually. And I'm thinking about which way to take this moving forward, because I don't wish for this to become a grind for you or for myself. I'm thinking about possibly shifting into writing this rather than delivering it live. But do let me know what works for you. Because there's so much, in all of this, and sometimes the flow of the conversational style of the work can sometimes be debilitating. It can sometimes really find it and hit it. Sometimes it can be like, I've just said a whole bunch of nonsense. I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know how to say it. That's something actually quite in this moment in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini is actually quite that. You indulge yourself in a little bit of nostalgia too as well, if you can at all afford it. I know that I always often cut to the quick and I go to the sort of meat of it. It's my temperament. It's my Pluto and Mars conjunction in Scorpio. But I also feel that there's no mincing words with this current quality of time. No amount of loving and lighting and manifesting and raising my vibration is going to help you or help me. We've got to be real with each other. There's a call to action to be truth tellers at this time. If we're going to redefine the definition of Venus, we need to tell the truth. We need to keep justice at the forefront of our minds. That's how we gain wisdom, by speaking and by listening to others. However, if you've been thinking about this timeline, and if you've been thinking about activating this fifth house, if you've been thinking about times in the last Venus cycle that were exciting, that were pleasurable, that did feel like something, that felt like a seed of potential that maybe couldn't be tended to at that time, or there's just something about sometimes when not over-analyzing it and not thinking about it, the fifth house can really create some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful opportunity for us. If you can think to happier times and that gives you pleasure, then do so as you're moving from this moment into the next. Think about what it was to be unfettered by the overactivity of a complex mind. Think about what it was like to be really present on planet Earth, not knowing so much about anything but your senses, what was in front of you, how things tasted, touched, smelt to you. Take that beautiful inquisition, that beautiful nostalgic trip, take that and bring it into the present moment, bring it into the current moment where you are emotionally articulate, where you have been aware of your body's reactions to your thought forms, where you have been really investigating the effects of stored memory or stored trauma in the physical body. Think about your immense level or capacity for empathy and love and care in other people. Think about what you find desirable now, which is, I'm sure, sexuality and attraction and fire, also water and kindness and love and connection. Think about all of that, and think about that as a moment of development to Aquarius Rising. You've come so far, you've been through so much, and you're doing such a fine job. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for humoring me, and thank you for bearing witness to what I am thinking of at this time. I know that 2024, for so many, feels highly triggering. I know that we will keep the lines of communication open, because that's how we maintain intimacy, and that's how we maintain our connection to Venus, to the women, to the queers, to the feminine spirits of the planet. I adore you, I admire you, and I believe you. So thank you for being here with me. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I can draw you one. They look like that. You can make an appointment with me at my website, umaruby.com. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, head back there and you can pick a truth, growth, love, magic, or femme reading. We'll look at the current astrology, how it's affecting your chart specifically, and we'll draw some tarot together too. If you would like to support my work, head to buymeacoffee.com/umaruby, and you can throw some money in the tip jar. If you're still here with me, Aquarius Rising, please put a 5-pointed star in the comments in honor of Venus and her rebirth into the warrior princess of justice. Let's do this together. I love you. Bye. Hello, Gemini Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Gemini new moon and also the Venus Cazimi in Gemini. This is all happening Thursday, the 6th of June at 10:40 p.m. for the new moon. The Cazimi happens the day before, but Venus travels with the sun and imbues this new moon with the possibilities of the Venusian nature. There is all eyes on you at this time, Gemini. It feels so potent, it feels so real to me. And I hope that we can all embody what you're so good at, which is rectifying or consolidating our difficulty with duality, of allowing in the light, allowing in the shadow, working with both of those beautiful energies in a harmonic way, and talking about it, using the voice as much as we're able to at this time. You have the sun, you have Venus, you have Jupiter, you have your guiding light, Mercury, and you also have the moon coming on around the bend. There's so much beautiful potential here in your first house, in your Gemini essence. If you can consolidate the fact that you're part of the zodiac that was rising on the eastern horizon when you took your first breath is being amplified at this time. Maybe you can work in some way to be an influence to those around you. You might register that there's a lot of people wanting to talk about love, wanting to talk about connection or reconnection at this time, wanting to use their voice and their heart and their access to pleasure in some effect that feels like valor, that feels like bravery, and that feels like a crescendo at a time that feels so tense. This Venus and Sun conjunction is something really beautiful and really powerful that I wanted to talk to you about with the Ace of Pentacles in company with me, just so we can sort of get a sense of what's going on. So the Ace of Pentacles is a great emblem of a seed, something which we can plant in order to grow for the future. Often new moons can be referred to as that seed too. You'll notice that on the Ace of Pentacles, there is that beautiful 5-pointed star. Now, this is an ancient emblem that has been used across cultures since time immemorial, since before time began. This 5-pointed star occurs and reoccurs across countless cultures across the planet. So many folks would look to the brightness of Venus in our sky and trace the pattern, trace the movement of the planet around the perceived galaxy, around the perceived zodiac or sky mapping tradition from which they came. The thing about Venus that I am learning about and getting my head around in my best Gemini effect is that the cazimi that I said, so when the Sun and Venus come together in the same place in the zodiac, that rebirth of Venus, that changeover from morning star to night star, that sort of procession that Venus takes, that marker point happens in the same place, the same 5 points in the zodiac. So to explain it further, for if you're under 40, for our lifetime, Venus has made its cazimi with the Sun in Gemini, in Leo, in Capricorn, in Scorpio, and in Aries. That's probably not the right order. I'm looking at the... Continue. This has occurred forever. This mathematical geometric position. The signs change over time. Every sign has about 100 years of Venus cazimis, and so the star moves in a clock. When tracing those points, you create a 5-pointed star. That's something that the ancient sky mappers knew. That's why the pentagram is so potent as an image. That's why we all learn to draw a 5-pointed star when singing Twinkle Twinkle. The 5-pointed star speaks to Venus and this moment. It takes 8 years for Venus to create 2 pentacles, 2 stars around the zodiac. So if we can look at this cazimi in Gemini, I'd love for you to think back to 2016, if you're able to, Gemini Rising, and think back to your commitment to sowing a seed, to creation. Think back to what was occurring for you in 2016 and think about the image of the seed. What were you planting for yourself at that time? And over the journey of 8 years, 1 star in superior, 1 star in inferior or retrograde. What occurred for you at that time? What feelings from Venus, who we know is the goddess of pleasure and beauty and love? In the Mesopotamian ancient tradition, the sky mappers would look to the planet Venus and see Inanna and worship Inanna, who was the goddess of love, fertility, also truth and justice and wisdom. There's another facet to Venus, which we love. We love that Venus can be about beauty and pleasure and enjoying oneself, the finer things in life. How stunning, how gorgeous to have that beautiful golden light in the sky, that shining diamond. Provide that for us. Venus also speaks about justice and wisdom and the truth. So think about how that hits for you, Gemini Rising. Think about the year 2016 specifically, because that was when this star formation began. We close it up now. A lot of us have really vivid memories of 2016. In some ways, 2024 is triggering a lot of people because we remember the circus of the American election campaign on its campaign trail to a crescendo in November of 2016. We remember the shock of how on earth is this possibly a reality. We remember everything that that puppet signifies about privilege, about greed, about growth at all costs. It's written all over the latex of that mask. But we couldn't believe that this was the truth, and the blind faith in oneself that this individual has, that they would affect the world, the culture, in such detrimental ways, we've got to remember that Venus is also a warrior, that there's no telling Venus to do anything, that in fact Venus will work in alignment with herself. And so when I think about 2016 and I think about that campaign trail, I think about the hideous examples of violence against the LGBTQ community that reverberated through every safe space around the world in June at this time. And I think about all of the people that have been affected by these moments moving forward. I think about what occurred in the years to follow. I think about the Me Too movement growing in size. I think about the change in the consciousness, the articulation of language, the change in the way that people react to their own bodies, react to their own sense of autonomy and boundary, the way that those languages are never going away, Gemini, and the way that we move forward as a people with a sense of self-respect and our eyes and ears wide open for any of this bullshit to occur again. You keep your eyes and your ears open in your intimate circles, and you keep them on the culture too. Because we're coming into this moment where it feels triggering because it looks like it's going to happen again. Whatever happens on the world stage, whatever happens in the reshuffling of power, at this time, Gemini Rising, know what you've been through, know what you've learned, know who you are now, and know the power and the might and the beauty of realizing that Venus is a warrior. And that has been a known fact since before time was invented. 8 years, 2 pentacles, 2 amulets of protection for you, Gemini. Now, in 2016, there was a cross over the zodiac at that Gemini Kazemi, at that Gemini new moon. There was tremendous pressure coming from all sides. What does that look like? A no, doesn't it? No. Let's use more of that. Let's say no more often, Gemini Rising. I think that there's a responsibility that we all should have for traumatic experiences to be held in our body. And that language is growing and evolving too. Physical ailments can be a reflection of traumatic memory. So we're moving through that as well. Trauma-informed approach at every level is paramount moving forward. Consent at every point is paramount moving forward. So let's really work with this in our mind's eye. Let's be strong and able and proud and also gorgeously Venusian and fucking beautiful. None of this has killed your beauty, Gemini Rising. None of this has killed my beauty, the world's beauty. It's a test. But remember that no that was marked in 2016. At this new moon, on June the 6th, there is a square with Saturn in Pisces. But this is a container, this is a boundary, a magical boundary that we've been working on since March of last year. This is in your 10th house, your vocation, your public-facing self, your magical element. And so that boundary will carry you through as you start to reapproach these topics around connection, around love, around pleasure, around ecstasy, around truth, and around justice. Nobody has the right to put you through anything or cross your boundary of that which you are not welcoming. You're not a weak person or unevolved if you don't agree with a certain teaching style or a certain way of operating or way of being. Our initiations are ours and ours alone. We initiate ourselves into this life, into our spiritual understanding. No guru on a mountaintop has the right to initiate you into anything. Rites of passage, initiation is old world. Venus says no. You cannot have Venus do anything that she doesn't want to. Just try. So hold all of that in your spirit, Gemini Rising. Use that as part of your seed, as part of this moment. As we move along into the rest of the week, there's going to be some conflict. There's going to be that square with Saturn is going to perfect. So hold on to your boundary, hold on to your sense of self, hold on to your right to say no at this time. Use your spirit, use your beauty, use your energy wisely. Protect yourself, protect those that you love. Create magical circles, magical rings of protection around each and every one of your loved ones. Use your power, use your femininity, use your beautiful spirit, your beautiful ability to talk and to converse. Use all of this. Have conversations with folks that you love. Have conversations with yourself about how much you love yourself. And don't allow anyone to say that you're blocked and this is the way through this initiation. You need to, it's required. Trauma-informed therapy is the only way forward. We know this for those lucky enough and privileged enough to have access to therapy. And I think that this gateway that you're standing at the foot of can be galvanized by this. This is the sword of truth, the ace of swords. There's no denying this fact, babe. Journey where you want to journey. Every magical quest I encourage, I fully do. But when we're thinking about initiation, when we're thinking about you need to do this or that or the other in order to be accepted into this or that or the other, this is where my hedge witch comes out. And this is where I run for the hills, metaphorically. But I'm like, yeah. I'm not buying what you're selling. Ta-da. Trust yourself, Gemini Rising. Trust that you're on the path to great success and great access to beauty and warmth and love and fun. You don't need to sacrifice anything to a deity in order to do so. A self-professed deity, I should say. Sometimes it's good to sacrifice things to the gods. But that's a private ritual. That's something that we do alone and with them, wherever they may be, not with someone wearing a pointy hat. I adore you, Gemini. Don't sell yourself short. Don't give yourself away for free, ever. Enjoy this seed. Enjoy this moment. I love you very much. If you ever need to be a hedge witch, be a hedge witch. That's what it's a good life. Your access to your spirit is all around you, available to you at all times. Magical boundary. Saturn. Work it. Work that container. If you feel uncomfortable, stop it from happening. Say no. Not anymore. I love you. If you're still here with me, Gemini, please put a 5-pointed star in the comments in honor of Venus, in honor of that slow tick around the Venusian clock, in honor of our progress since 2016. I can read your birth chart at Uma Ruby. I'll draw you one. They look like this. You can make your appointment by the link in the description. If you'd like to support my work, there's also a link called buymeacoffee.com/Uma Ruby. You can subscribe for 10 Australian dollars a month. You can also put some money in the tip jar. I'll be back with you at the Capricorn full moon, and we're going to enjoy that spotlight with the container from Saturn. Capricorn is the sign that uses Saturn as their talisman. Boundary, magical boundary. When there's a magical boundary, you're free to be yourself. Don't ever let that go, darling. You are doing such great work, and I'm very proud of you. Take care.